Hey, or Hexling if you're from my Discord. I'm Imogen. This video is part 5 in a series, and if you haven't seen my unboxing, building, kit bashing and painting videos, then go check those out. I'll leave the links in the description below so you can go and catch up. In total, the last video, this video, and the next video was 15 hours of footage, which I broke down into 3 smaller videos to hopefully make it easier for you to watch. However, a lot of this video is sped up, so this video may cause some issues for anyone who's photosensitive and or suffers, like me, with motion sickness. If, however, I skip anything that you're interested in or you want to know more, I'm always happy to share, so definitely feel free to comment below and or message me privately on Instagram at awitchesminis. So let's get back to painting my battle sister for Travelman UK's Suns Out Guns Out Warhammer Painting Challenge. Link to that below as well, but remember the challenge ends on July 31st, 2025. This is only my 18th ever miniature, and I'm still painting under the challenge rules of using only the 4 paints that they provided, plus my own black and white. Absolutely feel free to meet me on this video and add your own audio, but definitely be sure to come back at the end, or at least make sure that you subscribed, hit the bell, noting my links in the description, and also know that all comments and likes are massively appreciated. Check out my Discord and Instagram. As said, I'll leave the links below, and I hope you enjoy this body doubling video. So, let's get started. One of my favourite techniques after zenithal priming has got to be wet blending. I think it's a beautiful way to blend colours directly on a model and avoid harsh lines, patches, or other oddities that stand out. It creates an opportunity for smooth gradient, and that's what I aimed for with her cloak by adding orange and pink and lightening and darkening with white and black and shifting the hue more with the pink and orange values. Now, I'm not saying I'm a master at this technique, far from it, just that I really enjoy it and I feel like I had some good results so far, even if it comes with a lot of trial and error, but I guess that, like most things, will improve with practice over time. Additionally to this kind of blending, sometimes I also apply the paint and then use my finger Pom-Pom tool, and I'll put a link for my Pom-Pom video below, or I use another brush to blend or remove the paint. Ultimately, it's about adding thin layers of watered down paint, which is known as the glazing technique, and building up layers to create the desired look. I'm really excited with how the cloak is looking with the added shadows and highlight. It definitely helped me that in my last video while priming, I settled on a light source, the sun beaming down over her left shoulder, which gave me a really good starting point. Generally though, she's at the beach, so the whole space would be illuminated, especially with the sea also creating refractions. And on top of that, she's wearing metal, which is obviously reflective, so it reflects the colour of her clothing, weapons, and the sand, as well as enhanced shadows and the brightest highlights where it catches the light. I'll talk more about colour reflection in the next video when I tackle the final details, so if you haven't already, make sure that you subscribe and hit the bell for notifications for when that video goes live. Let's talk supplies. In the setup for painting video, I didn't really talk about the tools that I'm using, so I thought I'd give a rundown for anyone curious about my setup as to what I've landed on and what tools I'm using here and what I use in general. My main go-to brush is a sable head brush called the Workhorse by Tesseract Mini Studios, aka Tesseract Minis on Instagram and YouTube. The brush, well, an absolute dream to work with. Everyone is right to be raving about the tip. It's incredible, and honestly, I don't know how Stu's done it. I only have the Raphael 84 refills and synths to compare it to, but oh wow, I'm sold on this brush. So I'll put a link below to where I got mine from, which is their website, tesseractministudios.com here in the UK, and unfortunately it did arrive broken, but Stu was super kind and quick to send a replacement. I did glue and tape the broken one together and painted my 10 gut rippers and my custom weapons rack, which I made from sprues and bits of rubbish, with it. But this battle sister was too much, the proverbial straw that broke her back, shall we say, as she fell apart under the heat, more than the pressure. But I continued to use her, and now she's my mini yet really good brush that I use with metallic and special effects paints. Meanwhile, the non-broken brush got brought out for her first lap around a mini and behaved equally as good. So she's a strictly non-metallic or particle paints, as the bits that are in the paint tend to ruin brushes or at least shorten the lifespan. So generally it's advised that you don't use your best brushes with metallic and specialist paints. The synthetic brushes I use are just cheap ones that I got from Amazon UK. I think it was for a pack of 50. But I've since found out that you can buy the exact same ones on places like Shein, Temu, and AliExpress for much less, and you get even more brushes. And while I didn't use it here, I'd be wrong for not mentioning my Pom-Pom, and I'll link to the video where I talk about my Pom-Pom tool below. And of course the airbrush that I mentioned is the Galari GHAD 68 trigger, and I used that in my last video, but I'll also leave the link to the little unboxing that I did below. My wet palette is from Redgrass Games. It's the Everlasting palette, but finding replacement foam membrane can be an absolute nightmare. That said, I did notice that Pico Pro stocked them and I happen to be an affiliate. So I'll drop my discount code below for 5% off at pico-pro.de, and that code is of course my handle, so awitchesminis. I do in all honesty get a small commission at no extra cost to you when you shop with them. That said, I've been eyeing up the NIC Pro wet palette on Amazon. It was my original first go-to choice, but sadly it was sold out everywhere, and for the last few years it seems that they managed to get backed and the product is more commonly available. It does come with a dry palette, but since I already owned the Red Grass Games one, I'm kind of sticking with it. At least for now. Even if the Red Grass Games membrane does stain easily, but I haven't had any issues with the colour transferring, which is nice, just aesthetically annoying. I found having a wet palette quite useful, though having to wait more in the heat is understandable. And for the week that I was painting her, my paints did keep really quite well. I mostly use Vallejo, and I do have a couple of Pro Acryl, Citadel, and now the odd AK 3rd Gen and Army Painter War paints. Though I will admit that using a bunch of Army Painter Speed Paints 2.0, they don't really work very well with a wet palette, or at least in my limited experience. I'm also using the classic Citadel water pot. Let me know if you want a tutorial on how I keep it looking almost new. Not really much else to say about it, to be honest. I generally think any kind of water container would do. And I also have a pencil tub that contains a paper towel and a makeup brush rest. And I'm able to use this setup to angle my brushes so the water doesn't dry inside the ferrule. And if you don't know, the ferrule is the metal bit of the brush. I also use paper towel to help wick away the moisture from my brush, although I've seen other people recommend using an actual towel to avoid transferring fibres. Let me know if you'd like any information on glues and adhesive products. I also heavily use UV resin by Let's Resin and my nail lamp, which is ideal, as most UV resins use LED UV and not just the old style UV to cure. And in my next video, I heavily feature this, but of course I also used it in my kit bashing video as well. I really think that UV resin makes a really good glue, as well as able to do additional effects, and of course I also have some tiny molds so I can make tiny little accessories. Oh, and I'm wearing my Magnifying headset again. My diabetic eyes struggle to see tiny details, even with my glasses on, but the Magnifying headset fits right over my glasses with the band, and also came with arms so you could wear them like regular glasses, but honestly, I haven't tried that. I actually got them recently towards the end of painting my last project, and they made painting my 10 orc faces a real pleasure and a game changer. I did actually want to go back and repaint them, especially their details, but I resisted. The magnifiers are just so good. Plus, did I mention it has a bright LED light on it? You've probably seen that in this video, so perhaps not the best idea to use while filming, especially if you're speeding up as it's a bit of a strobe light. I'm sorry, I'll try to do better next time. I'm very fond of Anita's clear away tray, which I also did a video on and I will share in the link below. But it's an incredible tool that catches loose mediums like glitter, flock, basing materials, pigment powders, embossing enamels, or even small things like beads, gems, and would be great for diamond painting and more. Fantastic for catching loose bits so you save money and materials. This is now my go-to on my standard painting setup, and of course my craft mat is just a cheap black A3 one from Amazon UK. I'm hoping this gave you some ideas, but you're probably already on top of all this and got those products and something even better. I'd absolutely love to know what your go-to items are, so drop a comment or come chat with me on my Discord, link below. Weathering but within the rules? Now the challenge rules say that you can use medium, kit bash and other products as long as they don't introduce additional colour. Black and white is fine, and mixing the 4 that they provided, so 6 paints total, is acceptable. But I used a product called Staining Antiquing Medium by DecoArt. I actually found it years ago when experimenting with aging polymer clay and resin skulls. It's brilliant for giving instant aged authenticity due to the way that the product stains. Also, it's clear so you can add any colour you desire. I usually opt for brown, but of course in this case we had to go for black. So for this mini, I mixed it with black, applied it all over, and then wiped it back to let it do its thing. I didn't want to push it too far, and so I only applied it to the beach umbrella and not the battle sister, as I think she's coming together really nicely and I truly don't want to mess her up. Later, I used the AK Interactive Ultra Matte Varnish on the beach umbrella to give it a more dull, aged, weathered and sun-bleached look. And I also add some colour blends using my permitted paints to bring back some of the shadows and highlights to the umbrella. And finally, the umbrella's pole and spokes were painted silver and then weathered with just black. So let's check in with the painting, see how it's going. Genuinely, I have surprised myself with this. Again, I'll mention it's my 18th ever model. Pleased with how the paint is applying despite the heat. I genuinely found that mixing colours easy and I didn't actually reach for additional paints. Not that I was allowed to anyway, but I guess I learned that I don't need all the paints to be able to paint something to an okay standard. I'm really enjoying the armour, although I don't think the metallic part is really coming through, but it did definitely make a difference to the green colour. And I'm very happy with how this went on as well, even if the green and the pink look quite plague. But I plan to paint some plague when I have the money and other plans out the way first. For the gun, I didn't want to just paint it silver because guns are silver and have it at that. I did actually prime it mostly black, and then on one side I did white, which also hit a little bit of the top of the gun. And I was really excited for this until much later on when I realised that when you actually adhere the gun onto her, you can indeed see all of the backside of the gun and none of the bodice, of which I actually spent really long time doing. So what I decided to do while painting the gun was mix up the metallic with some black and also some white, so I had different shades of the metallic silver. I then applied this like I would apply it to anything else, or if I was applying to, say, non-metallic metals. And I added my darks and my lights and my shadows and my brights. And then I added some little spots of white over the top, and I was really pleased how this turned out. Furthermore, I added in some green onto the hand bits because these are the bits that will be adhering onto her, and they are her hands, because I don't know if you've noticed, she doesn't actually have hands. I was going to try and do like a little laser or a little fire or something coming out of it, but it just wasn't happening. I got incredibly stressed. I was already tired and I injured myself. Find out in the next video how I did that. So if you have any questions about anything that I did or anything I spoke about or otherwise, definitely drop me a comment below. Very, very pleased with what I've achieved here for my 18th model. As I'd worked on her gun, and of course the umbrella, I'd reach a magical moment where all I could do was sit around and wait for paint to dry. So I'm calling it here with a view to finish her in one final installment for painting, but it's not the final episode of the series. In the next video, I'll assemble her and the umbrella and the base, and use the sanding medium of which came with the challenge box and the extra little bits that I picked out, and I'll introduce you to her 3 little friends. So make sure that you're subscribed and you've hit the bell so you don't miss it. Thank you for watching, and as always, please like, comment, maybe tell me your favourite weathering tips or favourite tools. I love geeking out about this stuff. And if you want to hang out, talk life, hobbies, painting, games, or share your own projects, you're always welcome to come join me and my hexlings over on Discord. Link to that and everything else in the description below, including my Instagram at awitchesminis. Thanks again for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.